Hi, welcome back to this tutorial series on Proximal One, an interactive audio system for Unreal Engine. In this video we're going to look at the dynamics section of the audio instance and also go over the different stages where gain is applied. So let's begin. So with the instance selected, just going to bring that up. We've got this one here, dynamics compressor gain limiter. So if I expand that, the first one you'll see is bypass compression or compressor. When that is ticked, the compressor in the metasound graph is actually going to be switched off and not using any processing at all. But if we wanted to enable it, we would just untick that. And then we've got display compressor gain reduction or upward gain. So if I was to just let me just make sure I've got live editing enabled. Just bear with me a sec. Just gonna tick that. And now if I just hit play, and we can see what this one does. So if I hit play now, and select the instance again. So I'm just going to tick that. So you can see now on screen we're getting a value that shows our gain reduction for the compressor. Okay. Now if you're not sure how a compressor works, I think it might be a good idea for me to just go through it. So I'll start by just going through these different settings. So enable upward compression. I'll come back to that one in a moment. So how a compressor works, it's basically, if you could think of it as like an automatic volume control. Yeah, imagine that you've got someone who's sat there turning the volume up and down really fast. Okay, but it's obviously it's not that. It works because we've got this setting here, compressor threshold. So the threshold is basically you set a level, and anything above that level is gonna have compression applied to it, and the amount of compression applied to it is determined by this setting, the ratio. So for an example, if we were to set that to 2, then the signal dynamic range above the threshold is going to be squashed in half. So we're getting a ratio of 1 to 2. So that's how the ratio and threshold works. So next we've got attack time in milliseconds. So the attack time is the amount of time it takes for the compressor to reach its full amount of compression. And then we've got the release time. So as soon as the signal falls below the threshold, this is the amount of time it's going to take for the signal to go back to normal, with no compression on it. And then we've got compressor knee. So if you can imagine, when the compressor kicks in, it's going to change from sort of one value to another, and so the knee is kind of you can kind of think of it as like a stepping effect. So the knee would if you change the knee, you could sort of curve the response of it. Okay, so that's kind of what the knee does. And then we've got compressor dry wet. So when that's set to 1, it is fully compressed and with no dry signal. When that's set to 0, then we're only getting the dry signal. And if we set that to 0.5, then we're getting a mixture of both, which is, if you've ever heard of parallel compression, that's what that would be. So I'm just going to set that back to 1. And then we've got makeup gain. So what is makeup gain? Why do we need makeup gain? So basically, when the signal goes over the threshold, it's actually going to be turned down. so the signal above the threshold actually gets turned down, and when it gets turned down, basically the dynamic range of the signal is squashed, and because it gets turned down, it's going to turn down in volume. And the makeup gain is a way that we can like add that gain back in. So when we add that gain back in, the squashed dynamic range signal actually becomes louder, because everything that because we're resetting the peak levels of the signal back to where they were originally, but everything that was underneath the threshold is now getting turned up, so now we've got a much louder sound. Okay, so that's what the makeup gain is there for. So if I was to actually, we could have a play around with it now. If I just hit play and come back to here and re-enable this show gain reduction, so it's showing gain reduction in RMS. So that value that it's showing is the amount of signal that's actually getting turned down that's above the threshold. Okay, so if we were to pull the threshold down, you can see that now we're turning more of the signal down. Okay, and so because we're getting about 3 or 4 dBs of gain reduction there, we can use the makeup gain to bring that back in, and we can also toggle it on and off to just see that our levels were sort of matching what they were originally. Okay, so what's this one then? Upward compression. So upward compression is kind of like the opposite of what it's doing now. So instead of anything above the threshold getting turned down, anything below the threshold is going to get turned up. So instead of the sound actually getting quieter when we apply compression, it's actually going to make it louder. So if we enable it now, we can see what the effect of that does. And you see that now we've got a much louder signal, and the compressor threshold is actually, it's going to feel like it's doing the opposite of what it was before. You notice I pull it in sort of towards the right, we're getting like this is saying upward gain, and it's showing us the amount of gain that it's applying. So, and you can hear that it's become louder. So yeah, so that's what upward compressing is doing, and it gives a nice effect to the sound. Actually, it can on some sounds it can make them sound a lot more fuller and more dirtier. So yeah, so that's basically upward compression. So I'm just gonna stop that now. So so yeah, these are the compression settings, and the compressor comes before the limiter. So the limiter is right at the end of the signal chain in the metasound graph. So the first setting we've got is pre-limiter gain. So what this is you can apply additional gain to the signal before it goes into the limiter. And then we've got limiter threshold. So like the compressor threshold, anything that goes over that level is gonna have compression applied to it, and this is by default it's set to 0. So chances are this isn't gonna do anything to your signal. Okay, but if you wanted to apply limiting, then you could pull that value down, and then you're lowering the threshold, and it's gonna hit your peaks in your audio. Okay, so the next one we've got is audio gain post limiter. So This just allows us to add or take away a little bit of the gain after the limiter. So by applying gain to it at this stage, it means that we can apply it to the signal after it's already gone through limiting. So that might be where you want to play with the signal if you've already got it sounding the way that you want. Okay. So just to clarify, limiter and compressor, they're very similar things, but they're not the same. So what a limiter does, instead of just trying to compress it to a specific ratio, what it's actually trying to do is prevent the signal from going above that level, and it will do it in a very transparent way. It doesn't mean the signal doesn't go above that level, but most of the signal will be prevented from going above that level. Some limiters have got a setting called true peak mode, and when you click that, then they do completely just prevent any signal going above that level. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So with that out the way, I just want to show you a couple of other things that we've got here. So if you come into the clock blueprint, we've got this one, master gain. The master gain is basically gain applied after the limiting and after the post limiter gain on the audio instance. So it's an additional gain setting, but the difference is that this one is applied to all audio instances at once, which means you can turn up the entire level of the whole system at once, or you can turn it down. So that should help with setting the overall level. Okay, and then we've got this one, display the combined peak level. So if we tick that and hit play, so up here you can see this, it says proximal combined peak level. So this is the peak level of all the instances, and this value is obtained from the envelope follower on one of the submixers. Okay, so there's a submix called monitoring submix, and so this is it's monitoring a peak level that's kind of smoothed out. So that is basically the value that you're getting. Okay, so it's just another way that we can sort of assess where the current gain of the system is. Right, okay, if I just stop that a moment, I can actually come down here. If I go to the submix folder, we can have a look at the submix. So if I double click on that, so if you just have a look at this, so this is where we're getting our monitoring level from the envelope follower here, and it's going into the blueprint and then giving us that value on screen. But we've also got on this one, we've also got another limiter that you can have a play around with, and you can actually use the limiter here to control the overall volume in your system. So for example, if we've got music all set up to play, you might want control over the gain of the system of Proximal One's audio, so that you can place dialogue or sound effects or I don't know, menu music or whatever over the top of it. Yeah, so how you would do that is, if we come down to the content drawer again, and in the blueprints folder we've got this one called BP Proximal Submix Control. So if you open that now, we've got these nodes here. So what you could do is copy these nodes into your graph, and wherever you want to apply volume control in your blueprint, you can use it by plugging a variable into this output gain control. And you can also use the same node to adjust the limiter if you wanted the threshold changed, for example. You could do that there by using that node. So I think something that's worth mentioning, because I've got this blueprint in the project, if you were to come into the submix folder and try and change these values, like if you went into that master limiter asset and tried to change these values, I found that I couldn't actually change them from here because this blueprint existed. But if I change them in the blueprint, then it seemed to update. So that's just something that's worth bearing in mind if you did try doing that and you found that you couldn't change the limiter threshold, for example. So yeah, so that's pretty much how the audio is routed. So yeah, only other thing in here is the sends for the reverb. So if you could imagine, you've got your metasound over here, and then it's sending the audio straight to directly to this submix, but it's also got two sends that go to the reverb as well. And then the submix, the monitoring submix, is routed directly into the final submix. Now there are other ways that you can have control over the volume of the system, but I found that just setting up control of that limiter in that final stage is probably the simplest, easiest method of doing it. But it's up to you how you want to control the overall volume of your system. There's tutorials on YouTube that are going to cover that better than I probably could. So, but anyway, yeah. So that is the basically the gain, staging and dynamics for this system. So hopefully that helps you. So actually, before I end this video, I nearly forgot to mention actually there is a visualizer that can help you as well. So with your instance selected, if you come down to visual components, you've got this color visualizer type. You can set that to RMS level. Now this will only work at runtime, so you won't be able to see it in the editor, and that's because it's getting its gain value directly from the metasound whilst it's playing using an envelope follower. So if we were to click that now, what you would see in the editor, it would just show you this clip gain, but when we actually hit play, we should be able to see a sort of visual representation of what's going on. So yeah, you can see it's sort of yellowish green at the moment, but if we were to push the gain on that instance, so if I just go into dynamics now and just add some gain, you can see that when we go into the red, it is around 0 dB. So yeah, that could be another helpful sort of visual reference for setting the gain. So yeah, I think that covers it now for this video. So if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments. So yeah, so that's basically the gain staging and the dynamics section, and so yeah, it should give you a little bit more insight into how that all works. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully catch you with another video. Okay, thanks then, bye.